Hello, good morning and welcome to Thoughts and Updates for this week. It is freezing, literally -6 or -3 over the night here in sunny Scotland. It is a very frost-bitten morning and very bitter, very cold, but fresh. There's no cloud in the sky behind me at all, and therefore looking to be a quite sunny day, but there's snow all over the rest of Scotland, where we have avoided the snow, unfortunately, because I fairly love it so I do. The rest of Scotland seems to be covered in a white fluff, whereas it's not managed to get us here. So this week, in terms of writing, one of the things that I've been looking at is the editing of the SFSA Why I Love My Club book, which is almost completed. I think we've got about 7 or 8 clubs outstanding out of the 42. We've also got Kirkintilloch Rob Roy, Whitlets Fix as well. Cumbernauld Colts, a fantastic wee piece by one of their under 15 players. So we're just scooping up the last of these entries to hopefully have 42 at least entries into the book from supporters all over Scotland. Some of them, I have to say, have been absolutely fantastic to read. So that's been a major part of this week. Also, for my work for ICS Learn Limited, it's been getting some of the plans in for the non-examinable assessments for A-level English Language and Literature, which is a process that's very, very interesting in many kind of ways. We've got a few who are struggling with the concept and idea this may become vastly important this year because there's no exams. But once again, both this side of the border in Scotland, also down in England, it's been a bit difficult because there doesn't seem to have been a coordinated, coherent plan. There's lots of things happening which are surprising to some people, and I don't understand why. But there are many, many organisations that have been caught out by this, and I'll come to them in a minute, particularly the SFA and the SPFL. So also overnight, flashback next week, we'll probably reflect on the loss of Conor McGregor to Dustin Poirier. What a surprise that was this morning. The championship fights that happened overnight as well. I got one right, one wrong over in America, which I'm happy with. I can deal with that. We also have I have been writing Michael Katsidis for the Ringside Report Boxer of the Year. No Trump this week because he's gone. Ain't that great? But I have been talking about executive orders and what the issue is there democratically, because the idea of somebody coming in with a swirl of the pen, changing things, we'll come to that in a minute, is quite odd for us. But as well as that, for the SFSA. I'm trying to avoid doing something funny about Dubai and Neil Lennon and stuff because it's just too obvious. And one of the problems you have if you're writing about football in Scotland, as I've discovered apparently from the blogs I've been writing for the Scottish Football Supporters Association, is that if you're going to write about either of Rangers or Celtic, you have the possibility that because of the large numbers who support them, you're going to upset at least one, and at least one of them is going to be somebody who's going to have something to say about it. So I think enough's been done, enough's been said about that, so I may well be avoiding that. But I have been talking about the League One and League Two problems. Dumbarton, for example, are 150 years old next year. Will they survive? The suspension of the leagues for these lower clubs have come out of the blue for many, and there's a lack of contingency, not just there for the clubs who didn't know it was coming, but contingency by the league body and also the Scottish Football Association. And as we look towards the Scottish national team getting into a major final like next year and back where we believe and hoped that it should always belong, from whither shall the new talent and those with great ability come? I don't know. So, also for this week, I have been reviewing and spending some time watching some theatre online. Did see something from the Traverse about the water cooler. It was really good about race. Really enjoyed that. And a piece from On the Verge, the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, has gone online with their student festival, which I loved going to. Seen lots of On the Verge stuff that sits in the place in Govan, Pearce Institute. And elsewhere in Sloan's Bar too, which I've always really kind of enjoyed, because it's that kind of grassroots new stuff that I think Fringe Review is very good at capturing, particularly since the mainstream don't go anywhere near it in terms of having any kind of review. And being a critical pal is really important. So all of that is massively this year part of how we need to foster and work with people in order to keep that that production line going, both in football and in theatre, and also particularly in boxing. So what have I learned this week? The executive orders concern me, because the idea that Trump's 4 years could be wiped away with one swing of the pen is a very, very seductive method. That the new president, Joe Biden, comes in and he says, right, enough of this, we're not having this anymore, let's move on. So he stops the wall, stops the immigration policy, rejoins the world in terms of environmentalism, and Greta Thunberg says, thank God you're back, rejoins the World Health Organization, and relief throughout the world because America is once again going to play the type of part that we had always expected it would, due to the fact that it is the most powerful democracy, not the largest. That, of course, is India. However, I worry about it, because tyranny comes from the ability to do things unchecked with no balance. And whilst I'm absolutely delighted that within the first 24, 48 hours that they have been able in America to change the policy landscape, there is a Democrat within me which is kind of concerned. It was concerned when Donald Trump was doing it. It should not therefore be less concerned because somebody else is doing it, even though I may like them. And that makes it difficult for those outside of America, because whilst we see the delight that people have in democracy will prevail, this is the day for democracy, as Biden talked in his inauguration speech. But if you export it, you have to role model it, and it causes a bit of concern. I don't think there's going to be any change anytime soon, and I've talked a little in my column this week for Ringside Reports and the Kale Yard debates about the way in which proportional representation has changed the landscape of British politics, particularly in Wales and in Scotland. It had already changed the landscape in Northern Ireland because the European Union elections were done by proportional representation, but the idea that come this May, the Scottish National Party may well be in a position where for the second time that they have managed to achieve not just a majority of votes, but a majority of seats in the Scottish Parliament, when that whole system for the Scottish Parliament was designed to stop that happening. And yet the SNP have done it once already, and there's a possibility they will do it again. Makes not a mockery of democracy, but it makes the point that in order to move forward, the people need to be part of that democratic process, at the centre of it. And that's the point of what the SNP is saying about how's the roadmap for independence in the next referendum. We have continually and constantly demonstrated that the Scottish National Party is the party of government. The Scottish National Party is the majority that we want to send first past the post to Westminster. The Scottish National Party and their plight of their pledge for independence is something that we consistently vote for. At what point, what do we have to jump over? What skipping rope is going to be put down in order to trip us up again before somebody says, do you know what? They've done enough now. They keep telling us. And if it takes 25 years, a generation, well, we keep going until 2029, and then we can start 2039, and we can say, well, time now, isn't it? No, we won't wait, because the time is now. Finally, this week, somebody gave me a wee nod about It's a Sin, which is a fantastic new serial I hear. I haven't watched any of it on television, about the AIDS crisis, and many of us lost friends to AIDS, and many public figures found themselves being lost to that particular devastating, appalling illness. There is still no cure, but there are ways of managing the whole attack upon your immune system that comes from HIV. And Russell T Davies, the writer, had gone on at great length in an interview about how he wanted gay characters to be played by gay actors, and it was quite scathing, I believe. I didn't read the interview, didn't hear it, about non-gay actors taking up these roles. And there is a concern in the non-gay community that as actors, we're actors. We're not there to play who we are, we're there to play who we can do so effectively. And whilst blacking up has quite rightly been banned and removed from the process in terms of creativity, because it's just appalling, and disabled activists are beginning to see the fruits of their labour in terms of trying to get disabled actors employed to play disabled parts, whereas in the past, disabled parts, particularly if you look at Daniel Day-Lewis in My Left Foot, being used in order to play parts that disabled actors could well have been used, that they are seeing changes. But the disabled creative movement, particularly We Shall Not Be Removed, has always said that they can understand why certain disabled roles happen to be given to non-disabled people. The issue for them is that if they have not considered a disabled actor, if they've not tried down the road for disabled actors to have the opportunity, then there's no reason to employ a non-disabled actor. And I get that, I believe that, I understand that. And I think that every single disabled part should, first of all, be pursued with vigour for a disabled actor. I don't just say that because my son's disabled and an actor, but I think that it just is a policy that to give people who have an authentic reason for being employed an opportunity to take on those roles is legitimate. Similarly over homosexuality and gayness, but I do not, again, think that a non-gay actor is necessarily unable to prove able to play a gay character, in the same way that I don't think a gay actor is unable to play a straight role at all. In fact, there are many, look at Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson hid his homosexuality for almost all of his career, yet played that Hollywood heartthrob. There are complex issues, of course, and particularly when it comes within the LGBTQ plus IA community over transgender roles. And I think that, if you look at Coronation Street, for example, and Haley in Coronation Street, played wonderfully by Julie Hesmondhall, who kept in contact with the LGBT community and had the opportunity to promote LGBT issues at the time that the mainstream couldn't really accept them, but did so as an ally for the community. In the same way that in Black Lives Matters, what's been happening is that people have looked outside and have said, I am absolutely positive about the future because I see white faces, I see people coming out from their comfort, coming out from the zones that they've been hiding in order to support us. And that alliance is massively important. And I think, therefore, there needs to be a debate, there needs to be a discussion, and it needs to be mature, not about flinging things at people, particularly insults. So, as we end this week with President Joe Biden signing off the end of a Trump era, we hope, and there is the possibility of some kind of debate, perhaps, I don't know. Given Equity have a policy of getting rid of people who've been there for 30 years by not furloughing them and flinging them out in their ear redundantly prior to Christmas. Perhaps I am over optimistic that we can get some kind of positive way forward within the arts in terms of gender and other issues. But hey, it's not the beginning of December anymore, it's the middle of December. It's a beautiful, beautiful day, no snow, don't like that myself, but for some, it's going to be a good day. And for us here in Scotland, until the next time and next week, bye for now.